This offseason, when the Chicago Bulls traded Josh Giddey for Alex Caruso, many people thought maybe, just maybe, Alex Caruso ends up only staying 1 year in OKC. Well, Alex Caruso just signed a 4-year, $81 million extension with the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the question that I want to ask here, does this make it harder for Josh Giddey this offseason to get the $30 million that he reportedly had interest and desire to sign? We'll talk about all and more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bulls Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bulls news and content.
What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today. Big Kev is going to be joining us at some point. But Alex Caruso just signed a 4-year, $81 million extension with the OKC Thunder. Now, this is great for Alex Caruso, and I think this really kind of highlights, because there have been a lot of, whether it is Josh Giddey fans or kind of people who don't really understand and look fully at the game of basketball, that have tried to make it out to be that Alex Caruso hasn't been good this season because of what the stat sheet shows. And I think this shows the value that he has for OKC Thunder and what his defense and leadership and other things have brought for that team. But real quick, Kevin, I know me and you just talked about this over on NBA Central, but just kind of recap this here. How do you feel about this deal for Alex Caruso?
I mean, I'm happy for him. Like, I feel like Alex Caruso does a lot of the intangibles, things that people don't really pay attention to as basketball fans. Today, we got these basketball fans who really just look at box scores, or they're betting on one of these websites and they're trying to get their parlays and they over unders, but they're not paying attention to the little things, the scrappy things, the defensive plays that completely turn the trajectory of a basketball game. And that's what Alex Caruso does. He'll play the passing lanes. He'll muddy it up in the paint. He'll guard the center if he needs to. And all those things matter. He'll dive on the floor. He'll even get that assist that you're not paying attention to, or that three that you're not paying attention to. Even though he's shooting like, 20-something% from three, I guarantee you out of those 20%, the threes that he's hitting is momentum threes. Not just garbage threes, but threes that put the team up by 13 and force a timeout, as opposed to missing it and then it being a 6-point swing. So I like Alex Caruso as a basketball player. I didn't think the Bulls should have moved off of him, but it is what it is.
For sure. I definitely agree with you there. Let me ask you this question then. To move this to the Chicago Bull that we have on the roster. Josh Giddey reportedly wanted contract, and it's reported, so again, alleged as of right now, $30 million annual average value. So it's contracted that's $30 million annually. With Alex Caruso being on a championship team, being a player that's made all defensive teams, that's on pace again to make an all defensive first team this year. Does this make it harder, or do you think easier? Does it just not have anything to do with Josh Giddey's pending contract extension?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it has anything to do with Josh Giddey's pending contract extension. I think this is two separate things. The Oklahoma City Thunder are playing for a different type of level of basketball. They want a championship, and the Bulls are trying to build for the future. Josh Giddey is still auditioning for a championship here. Not championship, but a contract here. That's just the reality of it. Unfortunately, it could look like the Bulls gave up Caruso for nothing if they don't re-sign Josh Giddey. That's just that's what's going to happen if they don't re-sign him. But at the end of the day, the two are not in the same category. What Caruso brings to OKC versus what Josh Giddey brings to the Bull, it's just different, bro.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely different. They're very two different types of players, but I still, you could still have the conversation on who impacts the team more overall, regardless of the way that they impact differently. And right now, that's what the Bulls are still trying to figure out about Josh Giddey. Alex Caruso was able to come in and fill a role that was needed, and a very specialized role. And even with his shooting not being amazing right now, he's been able to fill that role adamantly. And that's why they can weather it, because they have so much scoring other places. Even though Alex Caruso was a 40% three-point shooter for us last year, he hasn't brought that at all. So we'll see what happens. But Alex Caruso, it's not about if Caruso deserves the money or not. I think everybody around the NBA knows, who actually watches NBA basketball, knows that Alex Caruso is worth every bit of this money.
Yeah, like first team all defense. You're looking at a Tayshaun Prince type of player.
Mm.
You know, like somebody that's not he's not expected to do much in the scoring on the box score, but he's expected to do everything on the other end to make it hard for the other team. We look at what happened with the Bulls. The Bulls went from being one of the better defensive teams in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just be honest here, especially when Caruso was out there. We already know the stats, we know the numbers, we know how many deflections he gets. You know, we know how when he was on the Chicago Bulls, what the points per games they gave up versus him being off the floor versus him being on the floor. We know all that stuff. It's the same thing with Oklahoma City. It's probably an 8-point differential between him being on the floor or off the floor. I haven't looked at it. I know Haize probably got some website where he could just pull up. But at the end of the day, Caruso's value is defensively. Everything else is a plus. If he's out there shooting 40% from three, oh my God, that's amazing. But that's not what they got him for. That's not what they traded for him for or signed him for. All those things that happened. Well, OKC, they didn't get Alex Caruso to score the ball. It's a plus.
Fact. So just to put this in perspective, these numbers are actually crazy. When Alex Caruso is on the court, opposing teams score 6.3 points worse per 100 possessions when he's on the court, and almost 3% worse effective field goal shooting percentage. Opposing teams' turnovers go up to almost 4% with Alex Caruso's on the court. He's just a type of player, bro. He just impacts the game, man.
And I was just guessing. That's the crazy thing is, like, that's what he does. That's why the Chicago Bulls give up the second or third most points per game in the entire NBA now, because it's the Caruso effect. Frankly, the Chicago Bulls would be either a 500 or above 500 team if Caruso was still on this squad, bro. That's just a fact.
Oh, for facts. With just his point of attack defense and deflections that would help this team get out in transition even more than what they already do, which would help them play faster. And then even Alex Caruso, I know his offense isn't needed on OKC Thunder, but if you put Alex Caruso with the pace that we run and the fact that he moves off ball, he'd be getting probably 2 or 3 easy dunks a game.
Easily, bro. He's definitely missed here in Chicago. For real.
That's a fact. As it stands right now, if you had a bet, Alex Caruso got his money with the team he was traded to. He's going to be there for at least another 4 years unless they move off of him. How do you feel right now when it comes to Josh Giddey? Does Josh Giddey get an extension with the Chicago Bulls, or do you think that it may go to sign and trade route, whatever it is in the offseason?
I'm still up in the air. Like he's on a season-long interview right now. Like I'm mad that he got hurt because I wanted to see all 82. What do you look like as the captain of this ship? And frankly, there are times where Lonzo Ball has come in and looked better than him. That's just the reality of it. And mainly because Lonzo Ball still play defense. And Giddey's biggest knock is that he does not play defense. And there have been times where he's looked god-awful defensively. Not just bad, but Chicago Bears bad defensively for the Chicago Bulls.
Leave the trauma alone, Kev.
I'm just saying, bro, the Bears are worse than bad. And there have been times where Josh Giddey has looked worse than bad out there for the Chicago Bulls. The Bulls have lost games because of how porous Josh Giddey has been defensively. So he has to make it up in other ways, right? Haize, like, okay, you suck defensively. How you going to look on offense? How you going to look on three-point shooting? How you going to look on assists? And what's your assist-to-turnover ratio? Those things matter. And with him being out, it just irritates me because I need to see that for a large sample size, a larger sample size than we've gotten so far. The Chicago Bulls know what they're getting themselves into. So to answer your question, he could outright just be not re-signed in the summer if he doesn't show anything over these next 3 months.
The problem with that is, I always say that I don't think Billy Donovan has the balls to change the starting lineup. I don't think AK and Eversley have the balls to not re-sign Josh Giddey. I think that they would want to save face if they're not going to try to get a sign and trade if no other team wants him personally. And I could very well be wrong in that. But some people also got to realize. Oh, thank you. Some people also got to realize, and Josh Giddey stands, not fans, but Josh Giddey stands. Close your ears, because I think they sometimes want to be blind. Do you know that there's only been one season of Josh Giddey's career where the team actually was better with him on the court than off? This was like Josh Giddey fans say so much things like, "Oh my God," but like he was the point guard of a near championship team. Yeah, and there's a reason why they moved off of him. His second year in the league, the Thunder were negative 8.2 points worse per 100 possessions when he was on the court. That means they got outscored in every minute that he played. His third year in the league, negative 1.7. So far for the Chicago Bulls, negative 1.2. The only time that he had a positive impact on the court, as far as overall, is that his rookie year when he was plus 0.3. So not even a full point better.
Yeah, I mean, like with these international players, we got to be careful, right? Because that's really what it is. Like Josh Giddey is representing an entire continent in this instance, so they gonna rock with him, good or bad. You know, that's just the reality of it. We're looking at it from a perspective of basketball analysts. They're looking at it from a perspective of hometown hero, kind of like how we felt about D Rose, right?
Yeah.
There was not. It still ain't nothing you can tell me about D Rose. I don't care.
Yeah.
What you say? Square up, fam. Square up, fam. Because you talking about D Rose. So that's what's happening with Josh Giddey. But when you look at the analytics, when you look at the numbers, you just can't ignore some of this stuff, bro. Like you really can't. And it's really what the Chicago Bulls front office should have been thinking about before they even traded for him. Like, how do you ignore these things that you just pointed out, that's quantifiable data that's available for everybody to see, and still say, can we not, we don't want one of these thousands of picks that you got OKC on top of Josh Giddey. Like, you didn't even give yourself an out or a safety net. Like, well, at least we got a first round pick out of it if we don't re-sign them. You literally put all your eggs in one basket with a team that had a basket full of eggs.
And the problem with it is too is that it's not that Josh Giddey can't be impactful, but it's that you need a very specific type of roster to get the most out of what Josh Giddey does. And the Bulls looked at that and said, "We got Jalen Smith for you," and that's really it. And Modest Bucilis, we got that for you.
I mean, and Montes has shown growth. I'm not going to act like
sure.
Montes hasn't gotten better, but listen, man, Josh Giddey, he also needs shooting around him. Like actual shooting.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason why he struggled in OKC, because that's one of their biggest weaknesses is shooting the three ball. So it's like, if I can't drive and kick to somebody that's going to really hit an open three, I'm going to look bad. Because I suck defensively. So my plus minus there is going to suck. But at the end of the day, once he gets back, this dude is in straight interview mode. I need to see Rajon Rondo-esque type stuff from him. Not necessarily the flash with the passes and everything, but running the offense, hitting the threes when you need to, getting his team ready to win basketball games, finding the open man. And he does that, though. Like, that's the reason why Vucevic and Charles Quentin from Let's Talk Bulls, he pointed that out.
Vucevic, Vuce is feasting right now mainly because he has a point guard that can distribute at all times. It's either Giddey or it's Lonzo Ball. Yeah, they're always looking for him.
Right, and that's not what we had with the DeRozan and Levine approach, and even Kobe White, which is a whole different conversation. Oh my God, Kobe White, bro, like Kobe, come on. But yeah, Josh Giddey is definitely helping Vucevic. So we know that he's the type of point guard that's going to look for the person to be open, and that's what he expects, you to be open and hit the shots when he get it to you.
Yeah, and to Giddey's defense as well. Like when Giddey was at the beginning of the season, when he started off hitting threes at a 42% clip, like teams had to guard him a lot differently, and it opened so many lanes up for Vooch and for Zach and for these other players, because if you got to guard Giddey out to the 3-point line, then pick your poison at that point. But he's of course falling back down to earth into more where he's usually been at for his career. And now it goes back to, okay, now what style are we going to play? Because again, and this is for everybody on the Bulls, we do run a run and gun style, but that's not necessarily even what is best for Josh Giddey. That's best for getting up 3-point shots. It's not necessarily what's best for running an actual system. And we got to try to figure that out if we're going to keep trying to win basketball games. But that's a conversation.
I don't think they're trying to win basketball games. That's the reality of it, bro. Like, I think the Bulls are tired of giving their picks to Orlando, and this season they want their pick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'll go to San Antonio this year, but yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
They're giving up a lot of picks over the last few years for a team that they gave up they gave up 3, almost 4, or potentially 4 first-round picks, depending on what happens this year, for 1 playoff win.
Mm-hmm.
For 1 playoff win. That's crazy.
And one play-in win.
What, 2 play-in wins, right? Because then we win both times the last 2 years. Then we win 1 game last 2 years.
Yeah,
And we got eliminated in the final game. So
yeah, exactly.
So 2 play-in wins and 1 playoff win is what we gave up 4 first-round picks to get. That's crazy, bro. Yeah,
it's rough.
Got to get it together. See, and this is where people try to say that other people are blinding you. Nobody's hating on Giddey because of Kobe. That's not it. And that's your own ineptitude of being objective. People have legitimate problems with Giddey because he can't play in fourth quarters. Who's the first one to sit down because he's a liability defensively. And also, yes, there is some that we gave up a beloved player in Alex Caruso to get him. But let's not act like Giddey has been great here. He hasn't. Now, it's not all his fault. But again, and this is the difference between being a stan and being a fan. And that's also what's the difference of people who came to the Bulls because they're Giddey fans and people who've been Bulls fans and have actually seen this team play. There's a big difference in that. And that's fine. There's a big difference in that.
Who's hanging on to Kobe? Like, we're trying to figure out what's wrong with Kobe. Ain't nobody saying, oh, we need to give Kobe the ball and let him do it because Giddey is taking all his shots and his opportunities. Nobody's saying that.
No, because it's not the same thing. Because if Kobe was playing better and shooting better, it would actually help Giddey more.
Right. Like, who's saying that? Like, where's that? Where you just reached into the sky and pulled a narrative.
It's people who reach for narratives to defend something that doesn't even need defense if you're just being objective. I'm sorry. It's objective truth. The numbers show it. Numbers don't lie. Giddey has not had the type of impact for the Bulls that the Bulls have hoped for. Just hasn't.
Yeah, like, and again, I want to keep Lonzo Ball. That's a better argument than Giddey versus Kobe. Like, let's talk about Lonzo Ball's effect because he plays defense. He does all the things that Giddey does. He shoots the 3 too much and misses, and he turns the ball over, and he looks for the open man. Like, I want to see Lonzo Ball be on the Chicago Bulls for an extended period of time where we can actually see him play basketball.
It's done for that too. I'm sorry. It's no. Lonzo got to go too. And again, not because of Lonzo can't be, because Lonzo's impactful when he's on. Like, his plus minuses for the Bulls are ridiculous. But I get it. Lonzo's playing great now, but there's always a chance of it, and not even if you take away the knee. It's not act like Lonzo has only had knee injuries his whole career. It's always some type of injury with Lonzo.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
that's true.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying.
That's a better comp. That's a better comp than Kobe, though. Like,
yeah,
what are we talking about here?
Yeah, but at least Lonzo, when he's on the court, is a plus 12.3. Like,
even with all the threes he missed.
Yeah, that's what's crazy. But nonetheless, we'll see what the future holds for Josh Giddey. At least Alex Caruso does know his future. He's going to be in OKC, and he's going to be competing titles for a while. He's been playing great. And shout out to Alex Caruso and what he brings to that Thunder team, and it's a fun Thunder team to watch as well. So, but they can't keep falling back like they fucking did in that NBA Cup game against Milwaukee. That was terrible. That was ugly.
Yeah.
So, but all right, y'all make sure y'all follow the channel at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We're the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace, y'all.